Absolute Superman. All right, brother. So I'm going to shut my mouth now, King. Tonight's theme is message to the black man. Is this the rise of blacks in politics, or is this really an Asian agenda that we should not really be concerned with? Or no, we need to get more in tune with politics, party politics, and pave the way. So, brother, I'm going to shut my mouth. If you want to share your screen, I believe that you can, and educate us for the next 30 minutes, brother. And before the brother starts, you can share get your screen shared if you want, brother. Brothers and sisters, we're going to give a little bit of time for Charles Gordon to do his presentation. We're going to be joined with Lee Jasper very soon. He's going to be doing a presentation. And after that, brothers and sisters, we're going to open the floor for questions and answers. So please have your questions lined up. If you'd like to ask any questions to Lee Jasper or Brother Charles about their persuasion, their ideology, or what we should be doing as a people. So, Brother Charles, it's all yours, my king.
Thank you again, Brother Muhammad. So, I mean, where do I start? I think there's a couple of bits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. Actually, do you know what? I have got a screen somewhere. Stephanie, are we good to get that up? Is that working? Perfect. All right. Okay. Right. So, can you guys still hear me? Okay.
We can hear you clearly, brother.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So basically, what I'm going to do here, I need to start at the beginning, because you'll probably notice from some of those questions asked, the black guy didn't know who he was. Now, there's a reason for that. I'm not a career politician. Do I even care about politics? Now, because I'm educated on it, but before, I've always been led to believe politics wasn't for me. And largely within our community, I think that's a problem that's shared. I mean, if you go to certain universities, then they teach you everything about politics. Within the schools, within our communities, that's not necessarily the case. So what I want to do is, before I can even tell you about the politics, I think it's important you understand the foundation of where it came from. So some of you may know me, and we may have kind of crossed paths before, and you may know the story. So I'm going to keep it as brief as I can. But the overall objective is just to kind of give you a little bit of background to explain why we're doing what we're doing. Is it time for the black people in politics? I would say yes. Is it important that we get involved in politics? I would say yes. And the reason why I'd say this is because if we don't, we can't expect things to get any better. As it stands at the moment, things are bad. We're fully aware of it. We have zero representation within the political arena that's there currently. We're not allowed to be vocal about our problems and our issues and so on and so forth. And even with the representation we have got, if they are vocal about it, the problem that you then find is that they're then backbenched, or they're so the issue that we have with the current political arena, which is obviously Labour and Conservative, is even if we want to work within that system, we still will never be able to represent our own within that system. And if we do it too loudly, then ultimately that in itself will cause a problem within that system for us. So I've set up Taking the Initiative Party, and the reason why we've gone down that route and set it up as a separate entity is so that we're not in a position where, when we're speaking and having our views and having our opinions, that we're not then basically cut off from them. So we're not in a position where we're told effectively that we can't represent ourselves, and we can't say that too loudly, otherwise we'll lose our position in Parliament and things like that, which is what's been happening to our representation previously. So my thing and the thought process behind this was, we need our own political vehicle, and that's kind of the essence of why it's been done. And I think the other reason why was, I mean, I'm going to go back in some of this in a second and then come forward, so it'll make a little bit more sense. But what I realized is that it doesn't matter how much money you've got in this society. What we don't have as black people is power. The Asians have it, the white people have it, but we're sitting around literally on the sidelines crying about what's happening inside Parliament and all the decisions that are impacting us when we're not actually involved in them. And again, we've been led to believe that politics isn't for us. So in our minds, we don't even get into it. In our minds, we've already decided that we can't make a change. And all of that is part of the programming. So I'm going to go back. So the reason why I want to go back to the beginning is because if you understand why I got into politics, that will help you understand the reasons why we're here. But more importantly, it'll also help you understand what we can achieve and where we can go. So I mean, just as a very brief background, I'm going to summarize it as best I can. My background is in business. I started in business when I was 19 years old. Moved into property estate agency, property lettings and management, then moved into property development. Was a multi-millionaire through property by the time I was 23, 22. 21, I think I made the first million, and just moved through the ranks, then moved into property development. And then I decided, you know, after being told at school categorically that I was unemployable, which is what made me get into the business and go into business for myself in the first place. Then I decided, you know what I realized is that all of the things that we'd been told in school, were a lie. All the things that effectively that we'd been told about ourselves were a lie. All the things that I was led to believe weren't true. I was led to believe that it was impossible for us to succeed in business. I was led to believe that, I mean, personally, I was told categorically that I was unemployable. So as a result of me effectively being unemployable, I shouldn't even try and get a job. So that's what led to me going into business for myself. But then when I got into business for myself, I then realized, well, hold on a minute, this isn't really that complicated. And then when I made $1 million, I remember the first time I kind of had like £3,000 in the bank and I had a tear in my eye, because even in my own mind, I didn't believe it was possible. But this is the reason why I mention this is it goes back to the programming, what we're led to believe we can achieve as young people. And the thought process for me was that I was brainwashed, even though I had strong foundation in my parents that helped me to say, well, no, you can do this. Everything that I'd been taught and everything that I understood was telling me that I couldn't. So to me, it was a case of I was almost going against everything that I'd been programmed with in order to then go about trying to achieve, going about trying to achieve against the odds what I was already told I couldn't do. Then what I realized is I decided that I was going to do my bit for the community. So I decided I was going to put out a book and talk to the community about basically what they could achieve. Because one of the things for me was the lack of understanding and the lack of people within our community that had been successful in business put a hindrance in my mind as to what I thought I could achieve in business. And then I thought, you know what, let me do my bit to kind of share my knowledge with the community. So I put out a book called The Secrets of Empowerment, which I can see flushing up in the chat. And effectively at that point in time, I was attacked by every government agency. And what I realized is that the message that I was giving to our people within the community was a message that the other side didn't want shared. And then that for me put me in a place where I was like, okay, this is actually quite scary. The fact that, you know, that the fact that I'm out there empowering young people and I'm being attacked by every aspect of the system with absolute lies in order to discredit, in order to discourage. And then I thought, you know what, this isn't. And then when I look around and I see other successful Black people that I know, it's a similar type of situation. So unless they live below the radar, they're in a position where ultimately they get attacked as well. And then I realized the problem wasn't money, because we all had money. So the money wasn't the issue. What I realized is the power was the issue. We had no power. We had no weight in this town. And that was as a collective, individually, we had nothing. I mean, if you look at the Asian communities, they very much work together, stick together. That, you know, they've got whole areas where they're predominantly there, Southall and so on and so forth. The families have 3 generations living in the house, again, so allowing the grandparents to look after the children, teach them the values, while the younger parents go out to work. All of these things were things that I was starting to realize that had been taken away from our community. And what made me, the more I stepped back and looked at it, what became more apparent was that this was by design. It wasn't by accident. And when you look at the messages that we're being programmed with from kids all the way through, we're being led into single parent families. We're being led into those situations, which ultimately are setting us up to fail. And then when I took another step back and I looked at the prison system, and the police and so on and so forth, what I then realized is that effectively we're living in a society today where the prison is effectively the plantation and the police are effectively the slave catchers, and all they've done is change the names, but we're still living in the same system. And even with our kids, you take certain you take certain children, put them in an environment with nothing to do, then they're gonna act up. They're gonna do stuff. They're gonna be out robbing, because idle hands are the devil's tools. These are things that my parents taught me. And when I looked at the system and I thought, hold on a minute, you go to an area like Bromley, just around the corner, you don't have these problems. Then you go to Croydon and it's rife. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if they can get it so right in Bromley, where everything's fine, and then you move around the corner to Croydon, why is it they can get it so wrong there? And that's when I started to realize that largely this thing is by design. And that was the thing that I found most concerning about all of this, because ultimately we're in a position where we're watching these things happen. And we're so lost in the rat race that we're not even taking the time to do anything about it. So that was why, for me, the next stage, after putting out the book and trying to educate people on what they could achieve, the next stage was we needed to look at and work out how we were going to gain some political influence. And again, when I was in school, I wasn't taught anything about politics. In certain areas in London, that's just not the education they give you. You go to Oxford and Cambridge, they're teaching you everything about politics. Like, I didn't realize that in some areas you can have as little as 400 votes and you're on the local council. And if you're on the local council, that means you then decide what happens in the school curriculums. You decide what happens within area planning. You decide what happens with budgeting for effectively for youth councils and youth engagement and youth activities. But we're not told any of this. And this is when I realized, well, hold on a minute. Again, this is by design. We're in a position where we're deliberately not given the knowledge because they don't want us in the game. And then they've made politics so uncool in every sense of the word that we do everything we can to run away from it and to disassociate. But in reality, we need to be fully up in there if we're going to change the dynamic of what's happening. And that was why Taking the Initiative Party was born, or TTIP as it's better known as. Because for me, I've looked around and it was a case of, do you know what, if we're going to change this system, we need our own table in the system that we can sit down. I mean, again, things they don't teach us is that all of the laws that we're governed by, and there's a million of them, they're all decided at a political level. So if we want to change how stop and search is handled, it has to be handled at a political level. But if we're not even in the conversation, how are we ever going to change that dynamic? So these are the basics of what I realized and the reasons why I think it's an important time. And there's a quote that someone said to me, it's a Queen Diambi, and she said it to me. And what I'd like to point out as well, because these are things that are relevant, and all I'm trying to do is help people understand what I understood and why we are where we are with TTIP and the importance of it as a vehicle for us as people. But Queen Diambi said to me, she said, when you look at, and I'm not going to mention names for whatever reason, but you guys can do the maths and work out who we're talking about. So, but as a group of people, another group of people has literally enslaved us, raped us, sodomized us, killed us, has done every conceivable wrong that one group of people can do to another group of people. But yet we trust them more than we trust our own. Why? And that was an eye-opening point for me, because it made me then realize that the marketing that has been done to make everybody hate us as a group of people has been so effective that they've even made us hate us as a group of people. And this is one of the reasons why we haven't progressed. And I think this is one of the reasons why we need to start to understand and undo the brainwashing that's been done to us. And we need to understand that, you know what, we are amazing people. Yes, we are passionate. Yes, we are. I mean, the reality is, if you break it all the way down, we're better at pretty much everything. The only place we fall down is the fact that we're divided as a people. But if we came together as a people, we would be in a different level altogether. And that's just across the board. But what we need to understand is that the only way that's going to happen is if we start to come together as a unit and start to support each other. And we've got to stop having the pessimism around each other and what we're about, and understand that we are the kings and queens that we are, and start to take our position within those environments. I mean, there's so much more I can say on the subject, and I'm deliberately not going to drag it out too much. But I mean, for me, one of the major positions here is that it's time for us to wake up. I hosted a dinner the other day with Dr. Julius Garvey, and I said to him, look, where are we, and how is it that we undo the damage that has been done to us over the years? How is it that we get ourselves to understand and work together as a people in order to start to solve and deal with some of the problems in society? And he said something to me that made perfect sense when he said it. He said, one person at a time. And at the end of the day, even today, my objective with us and what we're doing here is we need to now rise up and take our positions. We have a space, we have a table now. We're taking the initiative party. My objective is to get the people from our communities into positions where we can start to dictate and control our future. We can't be in a position where we're crying about everything that's wrong and not doing anything about it. And it's that time. And all I'm saying is everything that has been done, the foundations have been laid for us to be in a position now where we can put people up for various parliamentary roles. We can put people up for local councillor roles. We can put people up now to represent our community. We're a fully registered political party with the Electoral Commission, and it's our time to start to change the dynamic. And if we don't change it, there's no point being upset about what's happening. There's no point crying about what's being done if we're not in a position where we are going to step up and do something. And for me, from where I'm standing, my overall objective was, let's create that platform and let's start to represent ourselves. Because in doing that, we'll allow ourselves to put ourselves in a position, and it's not even about us. It's about our children and our children's children. We're watching what's going out on these streets. We're watching what's happening hourly. And the problem is that we're not doing anything about it. And as Dr. Julius Garvey said to me, and I'm going to reiterate it now, one person at a time. All I need is for everyone to start thinking and understanding the change we can make, and stop working out and crying about what we can't do and start focusing on what we can do. Because the reality is we can change it. He said it takes one person to start a revolution. But at the end of the day, we've been so brainwashed that we don't believe we can. But the truth is we can. And it's just about stepping up and taking our position at the table and knowing that if we don't start to represent our children and our future, then no one else is going to. And for want of a better phrase, I think, and it's a frequent one that I use, we've got to stop waiting for white Jesus to come and save us. Because, you know, the reality is it hasn't happened till now, and I can't see it happening in the near future. So my thought process and my mindset is it time for us in politics? Yes. The vehicle has been created. We just now need everyone to get on board. We need your friends to tell your friends' friends. We need everyone to sign up, and we need you on board in the change. And the only way we're going to make our future better and our children's future better is if we step up and get involved. We cannot stand around and watch the rubbish that's going on. We cannot stand around and watch our kids stabbing each other in the streets and sit down and do nothing about it. You know, and that's where it got to for me, because the reality is from a business standpoint and all of those bits, I didn't need to do this. I did it because it needed to be done. And I'm calling out, this is my SOS to everyone. This is a call to action for everyone. We need to step up and get involved. We can't sit down and wait for the problems to solve themselves, because we've watched them get worse. And then I don't know if I've made a couple of bits and notes here, just in case I knew there was bits I wouldn't remember. Oh, the other thing that's relevant is we did have candidates run in the Croydon election. We had over 20 candidates run, local councillor candidates and a mayoral candidate. And collectively, we got over 10,000 votes. So I think it's important to realise again that these things can be done. And one of the candidates that ran with us was
Brilliant.
Yeah, well, one of the candidates that run with us was Tubada, who you mentioned earlier. But it's time we need to create these platforms for our prophets, and we need to allow them to speak, and we need to give them the opportunity to speak. And more importantly, we need to give them the basis and the strength and the support to make the change. And another candidate that ran with us was Spencer Farron, who does a lot of work in the boxing community. But my objective is to change the dynamic and start to create our leaders for tomorrow and step in a place where we're not just waiting for change now, because it's never going to come. We need to make it change. We need to make the change. And those are the bits that I can't emphasize enough. It's for us, we've got to stop waiting and hoping that people do the right thing. We need to be in a position where we're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And it's not about anything else. It's just about the fact that if we don't change it, it's never going to get any better. What else have we got to say? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I literally wanted to keep it as brief as possible. But I can't, as I said, my main objective here is to help everyone understand as well, I don't actually want to mention his name, but yes, we can make the change. we can get the job done, we can be in a position of representation. We could have the next UK Prime Minister, but it's got to start somewhere. And it takes each and every one of you to be involved in that dynamic in order to make that change happen. And where we're at with this, if we're going to change it, we've got to change our mindset, and we've got to understand the power and the importance of who we are and what we can achieve, because in doing that, we can then start to move mountains. I always say it only takes a grain of sand to move an island. The reality is we are, each and every one of us is that grain. And unless we start to get involved, it's never, ever, ever going to get any better. So my thing is, don't cry about it. We all spend a lot of time sitting in a barbershop moaning about what's wrong, but it's the time now is, if we want to make it better, we need to get involved and use our vote to get in people that represent us. And just one last point, the real question that needs to be asked is, when we've asked, and I know there was a question asked earlier, what was it? The question was, do we believe that the politics has any benefit for us? And the answer to that question is, well, it doesn't. The reason why it doesn't is because, well, we've seen the Muppets that we're being forced to vote for. So the truth is, unless we change the people, and the problem was that Labour and Conservative would put people up to represent us, but they don't really represent us. So we need to be putting people up who represent us. So the real question that needs to be asked was, vote for who? Because that's where the problem was. When they're asking us to vote, with all the different initiatives that have gone on, they're still not asking us to vote for people that actually represent us. So what I see happening here, and what I want to happen here more so than anything else, is I want us to start representing us, because then we've got a reason to vote. Because if we know we're voting for people that genuinely care about us, then we're going to make the changes that need to be made. And I can see why, again, because if there's no benefit in voting, if you're voting for a guy who doesn't represent you, then why waste your time voting? And I'm fully behind that. I understand it. It makes perfect sense to me. So to me, it's a case of, what we need our society to do now is step up, take your position around the table, and allow us to vote for you so you can be our voice. And that's the next stage in this political evolution, because, you know, we're all watching Babylon fall. And the problem and the issue that what we need to now do is mobilize ourselves so we're in a position to take the seats as they become available. And that's all I have to say on it, unless anyone's got any quick questions, or Brother Mohammed, unless you want to ask me anything else.
We're going to come back to you, brother, so don't go nowhere, brother. We're going to come back to you, King, with a question. Okay. Brothers and sisters, if you come up to share screen now, King. Thank you so much, man. That was, brother, you done it perfect. I can't put it into words. You nailed it. You was in your time period, and you showed a professional at work there, bro. That was powerful, brother. And what really did hit me, and we're going to come back to you, my King, after Brother Lee Jasper. But what did hit me, brother, you know, I've been looking at the powerful comments in the chat room, reading them as you were speaking. But what really hit me, there's a young brother, Alika. He's a revolutionary young brother that I know the brother, because I was a teacher back in these school days. And straight away, all he kept on doing when he was talking, he brought up several black fists, and he said, brother, you've got my support. So from the time you can communicate with the youth like that, and they can see your words and get power and inspiration from your words, Brother Charles, with the black fist, come on, man. Because no one can hit that demographic. And that's what you've shown tonight, brother, that you gave a political breakdown, and the youth on the street are saying, you've got my support. Brothers and sisters, this is Brother Charles Gordon, co-founder of the TTIP, Taking Initiative Party. And we will be coming back to, don't forget, we're going to have a little questions and answers before we finish tonight. Beautiful young brother. I'll tell you, Brother Charles, God has made you for this work, man. You can't say this brother's damn ugly, I can't listen to him. Look how God shaped him. You can't say the brother, he ain't got nothing to say, I can follow him. Look what the brother's doing, man. God made him beautiful. God made him articulate. God gave him money. God gave him wealth. Come on, brothers and sisters. What more do we want from a young man like this? Brother Charles, please stay on the platform, King. We will be coming back to you, my big brother. This is Brother Andrew Mohammed, message to the black man tonight, brothers and sisters. What is our message? We got Brother Charles Gordon with us, special guest. And remember, brothers and sisters, we say this every single week. You must unlearn what you have learned. I'm gonna say that one more time. You must unlearn. Brother Charles went into this, man, because all the garbage that was put into his mind, he had to go through a painful journey. And sometimes in that journey, you feel unsecure because when you let go of things that you thought that you knew from day one, and you're now releasing them, brothers and sisters, you got a period of instability there now. You got a period now, you're saying, boy, what do I know? What is the truth? And so you must unlearn what you've learned. And Brother Charles really spoke on it. We, as a part of this, we want to make sure we pass on the baton to young people, and we don't want them to start from ground zero, because that's what we do in the Black community. When someone becomes conscious, guess what they have to do? They've got to start from ground zero. We give them nothing to say, look, my generation, we've passed on this to you now. They've got to start off having little house meetings, a little learn by your mistakes kind of, no. We've got to give them something. Brothers and sisters, this is why we created the West Side Young Leaders Academy and the Lewisham.
We are the Young Leaders Academy.
Everybody say it. It does not mean that you are not afraid, but you still act. You're not frozen by that emotion.
Of civilization, you should be teaching history, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we know our history? But we don't know our history. And because we don't know...
Standing in front of someone right now who makes a flying car. I thought, what's happening out there? 11 gangs in the one borough.
It's like standing up for yourself, not to follow bad company, learning about other cultures.
Okay, so here we are. We are with WILA and Lila, and this is our sponsored walk day. We are in Hyde Park. It's been fantastic. We just finished the walk.
You should serve first are people in your community. And our aim was to raise at least a couple of £1,000 so we can support local charities in Brent and also in Lewisham.
We intend to grow and develop the whole process so that we have a brand new educational paradigm that we can call our own. This is one of our students. As I said, it's been fantastic and looking forward to many more like this in the future.
Okay, brothers and sisters, that's a filmmaker. We didn't produce that video. I can't take no credit for it. That's a young filmmaker. He's going to be doing a documentary on our educational program. And I think this documentary is going to be called It Takes a Village. And he came down and he's been following our work. So brothers and sisters, please, brothers and sisters, if you're, you know what, how much money I lose doing this work. I can't work on a Tuesday because of this show. I can't do works on Saturday because you know what? If we don't make a sacrifice today, I'm not a millionaire, brothers and sisters. I'm nowhere near that. But you know what? I'm a millionaire in terms of my spirit and my soul. And so, brothers and sisters, if we don't create a generation of brothers and sisters say, you know what? Let's sacrifice. Let's give back to this next generation. It ain't going to happen. And what I love more, creating the Hidden Truth family, brothers and sisters, and I want you to listen to me carefully. My main aim, I'm not an educationist, to be honest with you. I'm not interested in creating schools. People think that, oh, Andrew, you're into education, I'm not. I use a school as a platform to rebuild our community. And so, brothers and sisters, I'm saying to you now, why don't we come together on the least common denominator? And that is our future. please. And so one thing I love about doing the work on the Hidden Truth platform, we have now produced families that don't even know each other. Yeah, and we come together now, and I'm proud of the people that follow me on the Hidden Truth program, because when I meet you, I see that you're of a beautiful spirit. Why don't we do this? And very quickly, before we bring on Lee Jasper, is that there's a sister, I'm not going to mention your name, sister, but I know that there's a sister that needed, her back wall was knocked down due to the storms. And she couldn't find anyone to fix the back wall. And brothers and sisters, I've been chasing. Sister, I know you're on the platform tonight. I want you to tell me if you found someone or if you're not. Is the full wall being fixed? Because I'll say, on behalf of Hidden Truth, we were going to find that person to fix your wall. And as part of Hidden Truth, I will pledge that we will cover 50% of all of your charges, because we don't want a sister to have a wall that cannot be repaired and she's not going to repair it because she hasn't got any finances. Hell no. Hell no. So brothers and sisters, sister, you know who you are. I want you to text me. Let me know whether that wall's been fixed. And if not, we're going to find someone. And I say on behalf of Hidden Truth, we'll pay 50% of all of your charges to get that wall rebuilt. All right, brothers and sisters, because if we ain't doing it for each other, there is no point of us doing a show like this. Brothers and sisters, this is Andrew Mohammed, the investigator. And you know what? If Charles Gordon wasn't enough, lick shot upon Babylon with rice and peas, a buffalo soldier, and a dreadlock Rastafari forever, then I'm telling you now, brothers and sisters, we've got another king in our community, a firebrand. See, it's these brothers that I walk with, yeah? Brother Charles and Brother Lee Jasper, these are the kind of brothers who are walking with me, brothers and sisters. That's why I feel safe talking the way I talk. Brothers and sisters, Lee Jasper is with us. My goodness. Brother Lee, are you with us, my king? Wagwan Rasta.
I'm good, Andrew. How are you, brother?
Brother, when I see you, I'm smiling again, my soldier. I am smiling again. And Brother Lee, boy, man, I've been waiting for today, man. We got as you know, we got over 400 on the platform. That's just laptops. When we get the full count tonight, I will send it to you and Brother Charles. But I'm telling you now, Brother Lee, every time I bring you onto the show, I know I'm in for a treat, brother. I'm in for a treat. Now, Brother Lee, I'm going to shut my mouth in a second, my king. I'm going to shut my mouth in a second. I'm going to let you roll like my brother Charles has done. Charles killed it within his time period, brother. And we're going to give Brother Charles a round of applause. And Charles, by the way, give my love to Sister Stephanie and Sister Amina and your beautiful wife who I just met the other day. That beautiful sister, man. I felt her spirit, my brother. Give your love to the whole of your family. Brother Lee Jasper, before I'm going to shut my mouth, just like Brother Charles done, I'm going to show you, and Brother Lee, I'm going to time you, my king. I'm going to time you, brother. I'm going to show you, before you start, I'm going to show you one or two personalities. You got 1 minute to let us know how you feel about this particular political leader. And in that 1 minute, what's the message for Black people? All right, you got 1 minute, brother. You're a master when it comes to time. All right, 1 minute. Come on now, talk to us.
Well, here's a man who couldn't be trusted even in a prison. This guy's the most corrupt politician in British modern history. He's a libertarian, free market extremist. He's the worst impact on Black communities of any prime minister in modern history. And there is a lesson for us: never vote for this kind of Tory.
Ouch, brother. You're not playing tonight, King. All right, brother. All right, Brother Lee. All right, come on, Lee, talk to us.
Well, here we have Dishi Rishi, you know, the man who murdered his boss, politically supported the man out in the open, then lost the leadership race, and has been brought back. You know, the third prime minister in 2, 3, 4 years. You know, this is a party in chaos, and this guy represents exactly the same interest that Boris Johnson does. All you're going to get is Boris Johnson's policies, Liz Truss policies, but with better PR.
Jeez, Lee, I don't know what you've been eating tonight, brother.
Well, this is Cruella de Vil.
Hey, behave yourself. Behave yourself.
Suella Braverman. Now, this is the proof that incompetence rises to the top in the Tory party. Now, we have a woman who's expresses wanting to see pleasure to deport people to Rwanda, who talks about the country on the one hand just been suffering an arson attack in Dover, and then talks about the country's being invaded. This is the most dangerous kind of politician that you can have out there, and right now she's in the home office.
Jeez, Lee. But what thing I'm going to say on top of that, Lee, we call it an arson attack, but if that was a black man or a brown man that done exactly the same thing, then we call it terrorist attack.
They are now calling it a terrorist attack.
All right, then,
because people pointed that difference out.
Yes, King.
Well, he's a shimmy, shoe shine, shuffle of a guy.
Oh, no.
He loves to tap dance on cue.
Oh, no.
A flagrant Boris supporter, you know, somebody who's climbed the greasy pole, an ex-member of the British forces, armed forces, you know, king, queen and country, all of that, and has done absolutely nothing. These are proof of why this policy about black faces in high places, it doesn't work, brother. Because unless you've got ethical black leadership, unless you've got black leadership that is grounded in the community, in a black perspective, then you're always going to end up with these kind of characters.
Lee, shut the front door, man. What are you doing tonight, man?
Now, here is idiocy supreme in this guy. I mean, look at him, groping women during lockdown, drinking at parties, rolling with the Boris Johnson mafia. You know, this guy's in it up to his neck. I hear now he's going on some reality TV program. That's probably the best place for him, because this guy is a full-time joke.
Jeez. Woo! All right, Lee, the question on there. What's your view on Starmer? What's your view on Corbyn? And which one would you follow if you had to choose one of them?
I have to obviously choose Corbyn in a country mile. Alex Starmer's the guy that I expect to sell me Magnolia wallpaper or bore me silly watching grass grow, because the charisma and power he brings to the position is virtually zero. Jeremy Corbyn, one of the most brutalized and mistreated politicians in the country, grew the Labour Party to the biggest left European party in Europe, had the most popular manifesto. So he'd be my choice by a country mile.
And I believe that Al Jazeera done a program whereby they uncovered with evidence and documentation what his own Labour Party had done to him.
Absolutely, and when you think about the nasty smears of anti-Semitism that was laid at that man's door, and a full-time national effort to make sure that he was undermined, and even from within his own party, as the Ford report now shows. And Keir Starmer's refused to publish it, refused to discipline anybody. They were terrorizing black MPs, ringing up reporters and saying, well, you might want to go to the women's toilet. Diane Abbott's crying in there with the amount of hate mail that she was getting as a consequence of these. And these people are in the party. Amazing. Amazing.
Wow. Anyway, I can tell that you're on fire, brother. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shut my mouth now and give you the time of respect for yourself now, brother. Teach us. The theme tonight is Message to the Black Man. Is this the rise of blacks in politics? With the Asians now getting into positions of power, should we be doing the same, or should we be walking away from party politics, King? It's all yours.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Andrew, for consistently having a show, and not just the show. The show's just the communication medium. All of the fundamental works that you're doing in the community. It's inspiring every time I see it. You're to be commended for it, and your consistency. That's the one thing I like most of all. Always focused on building the youth. So my congratulations. And to Charles, I have to congratulate him too, because here's a man who's expressing through the party the Garveyite principle of do for self. And if there's a message that is coming out tonight, it's surely that, look, if I want to guarantee my children's future. I can't do it without guaranteeing Andrew Mohammed's children's future and Charles's children's future and everybody on this call future. How do I do that? By collective action, by us coming together and organizing ourselves. So that politics has got to be independent. It's got to be an independent politics that is funded by us, because, you know, we're a people who spend large amounts of money on things we don't need to largely impress people we don't know. And you know, it's not that we're a poor community. We're not. You know, if I gathered up, you know, 20 cars in, you know, from central London off a few brothers, I could probably sell them and build a school. You know, we're not rich, we're not super wealthy, but neither are we poor. And if we start spending our money in the right place instead of the wrong place by supporting the academies that Andrew is running, imagine, you know, what new talent and leadership will spring forth from that bounty. I mean, you know, it's an investment in yourself, it's an investment in our future, but it's collective action. But to get to collective action, you've got to have trust, and trust between us is low. We don't trust each other enough. We don't invest in each other enough. We don't see leadership in the correct context. We don't back our leadership. And I think it's important that this next generation learn that, look, you can raise issues, but if you don't have the resilience to provide Black leadership in the Black leadership space, you may crumble at the first hurdle. You know, if you enter into this issue of advocacy on behalf of Black communities and you don't have financial independence, for example, then your job can come under threat if your employer doesn't like what you're doing. And so it's important that we have our own economy. I think the other thing to be important for us on here tonight is to begin to think like global Africans and to stop thinking so parochially about our situation in this country. You know, we are connected to people all over the world. And there's one thing that came out of the pandemic, though much tragedy it inflicted upon us, is the use of new technology that meant that we were more connected with people all over the world, more comfortable using the technology. And on that basis, there is a whole world out there, particularly on the African continent, that is growing economically at a rapid rate, way ahead of some European countries. And it gives us an opportunity here in the UK, with the access to technology that we have, to begin to think in very much more global ways in terms of where we see opportunities to both help and sustain Africa, and indeed, you know, to do a business that makes a profit and contributes to building economy. But we've got to have that independent economy. And the three aspects to any movement, really, it's got to be politics, law, and economy. And those three need to be together strong in order that a movement can be independently financially resourced, and therefore not in the pocket of any particular corporate source. And that's what the problem is today, isn't it? That today, modern politics is all funded by massive corporate institutions and billionaires and so on and so forth. Our other problem is, of course, we've got this first past the post electoral system, which is going to make it really difficult for people like Charles. If you had a proportional representation voting system, then Charles's party would do, with those 10,000 votes, would have a massive, you know, electoral representation. And so even thinking about the context in which we try and exercise democratic accountability and power has got to be part of our overall political agenda, because the first past the post lends itself to corporate lobbyists and private interests, whereas proportional representation means with 2 or 3% of a vote, you can get somebody elected in a proportional representation system. But I was listening to Charles and I thought he was right. Activism, getting active, becoming conscious of what you need to do to build community. Look, we're in unprecedented times. And I know from my experience of studying European societies that when their economies go down, racism always goes up, always goes up. And we've seen race inequality, the gap between us and whites grow over the last 10 or 20 years. That's the legacy that the next generation has. And, key to that is our lack of organization. Andrew talked about, Asians getting ahead in the government. I don't watch your next man things to that extent. We're only because I admire what their ability to do. They organize, they find their own finances. Rishi Sunak comes into politics, self-funded as a millionaire and so on. But the Asian community are very good about representing their political interests. And even with that, they still suffer in terms of, a kind of terrorist focused lens on them and a securitization of state, even with all of that organizational representative power and influence. But my view is that, look, the reason we are not where we need to be is because we haven't learned some of these fundamental lessons about financial independence. We haven't learned to trust each other sufficiently enough that we're prepared to really invest in each other's movements on the scale necessary. And that means we don't have any leverage because people got nothing to be afraid of. Half of us vote, half of us don't vote. When we do vote, it's not around a coherent agenda. We're just voting for whoever it is we normally vote for. The thing is about politics is that if you're sitting in a campaign office and you're designing a campaign to win an election, you don't go, oh, let's go and talk to the people who don't vote first. I mean, the whole economy is run by which community has got the highest voter turnout rate. That is the one that you're going to target in this kind of first past the post race. So the higher the registration rate that they see in our communities, the more leverage you're giving those who are campaigning for change in the corridors of power. And the lower it is, the weaker they are in the corridors of power, as Andrew's already pointed to the Labour Party. But I think the other thing about our situation is we've got to demand a more ethical type of leadership from our leaders. And by that, I mean, we've got to have a degree of accountability and transparency and integrity. That means we say what we mean and we're honest and we're truthful with our community. Because part of the lack of trust is that, people, as far as people are concerned, when it comes to politicians, can you trust anything they say? And, all of the slides that you brought up earlier, and people's responses to them give you an indication of just how little trust there are in politics. So people's trust has got to be earned. And part of our political challenge is to realize that our community needs to have trust rebuilt. And the way to do that is to be transparent, authentic, and accountable in relation to your leadership. And I think that, we've got organizations working on the ground like Black Socks, a self-help movement that quietly does, amazing work in the background. It's not something that people will shout about, but when you view the expanse of Black Socks influence in relation to Black businesses winning contracts and Black organizations winning contracts in terms of provision of service for our communities, and initiatives like Future Boss, taking young Black people to Africa to show them the economic opportunities that exist there, and things, a whole host of other things like Black Men for Change. So Black men coming together from across London. Andrew, you're part of that. We support and back each other in relation to these initiatives. These are the things that make the difference. But what it requires is for you to get active. And there's one thing that Malcolm X taught us, and it's the hinge that squeaks that gets the oil, right? Taught us a lot of things, right? But if you're going to, as a minority community in this country, demonstrate effective political power, then it calls for the most maximum optimization of organization right across the piece. We've got to agree on an agenda, even if it's 2 or 3 things that we say we definitely want from any party. That's a great start compared to where we are now, where everybody just gives their vote away free without any real ask from either any or all of the political parties. So I'll end with that because I think it's all about personal psychology. knowing your history in order that you become active. I think it's about economy to make sure we can fund our political initiatives and the kind of institutional building work that Andrew Mohammed does and fund business support for parties like Charles's. I think there's an ethical component for ethical leadership, and I think we need to be much more broader in our agenda, thinking about electoral reform, so we have an easier route to access to gain political power. And finally, of course, you've got to be a global African. In the days of now of technology that we have, you can do business with Africa. You can look to see to what extent there are opportunities for you here in the United Kingdom to be engaged in trade, not just in Africa, the Caribbean, the African descendant parts of Latin America, the whole world out there, right? And partly what we have in this country is an opportunity to access some, even the stuff that people throw away. Reconditioned fridges may not sell well here, but they may sell great elsewhere, or all sorts of other kind of activities you can think of in relation to international business that people need to be aware of. So yeah, that concludes my presentation. So thanks very much for your patience.
Oh my God, Baba, you are just dangerous, King. And again, you and Baba Charles, you just killed it. You didn't even take your time period, brother. You didn't take the whole of your time period, but yet you done it, my brother. You done it. Just to say that I'm just trying to think. I was reading some of the comments, and one sister, I'm trying to think which sister it was. She was blown by your comment about we've got to start thinking as global Africans and see each other as global. And she said, literally, I'm trying to think who was it that wrote it down just now. She said that is going to be a daily affirmation now. That is going to be an affirmation. And brother, you are so right. We've got to start thinking as global Africans, even if we're going to be based in the UK, but we are part of a bigger mindset. Brother, absolutely awesome. Brothers and sisters, this is the hidden truth. You don't know. Please, if you're feeling Lee Jasper, drop some ones. If you're feeling Brother Lee Jasper just now, drop some damn ones, man, because wow. Amazing. Brothers and sisters, this is the hidden truth. I've got to say that, man. I've got to say that. Sister Samira or Sister Jarita, were there any comments that you read yourself? Because I know you're on that tip, or are there any questions that came from the floor? Brothers and sisters, can you just do me a favor, as Sister Samira or Sister Jarita's just getting in their comments ready? If you would like to ask some questions to any of our guests, Lee Jasper or our brother King, Charles, could you just raise your hand use the raising hand emoji, and we've got a bit of time now to ask some serious questions, because these two are what I call my experts within our community that are really, I stand by what they say. I stand by what they say. So if you'd like to ask them some questions, you can either type it down in the Q&A room, in the Q&A box, sorry, or raise your hand and I'll allow you yourself to speak to. I've got loads of questions myself, but it's not about me. Raise your hand. And remember, we're family here tonight, brothers and sisters. You don't be afraid to speak to your family. Beautiful. Brother Joel Henry. I've got you down that you would want to say. Brother Joel Henry, I'm allowing you to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Beautiful, brother.
Oh, wicked. Hey, big up yourself, Brother Charles. Big up yourself, Lee Jasper. I think Charles is on mute as well. And Jarita's on mute as well.
Yeah, Charles.
My question would be probably to Lee Jasper first, because I remember, was it Lee Jasper and Ken Livingston who gave Sister Shanice a building for a youth club when this was like 20, it was you and Ken Livingston, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, you lot gave us the building, and that was a good youth club we had for a good 10 years. A lot of lives changed, and they took it off us to build some private flats.
Brother Joel, was that Starlight?
Starlight Music Academy, yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
well, Lee Jasper, I didn't know that you're one of the people that get that building was phenomenal. I went there several times.
Coxon was there as well. Bird was there as well. Yeah, man. It was a good look. And obviously, I think that wasn't a financial. I think that was a gift. Like the government gave it to you, and you just gave it to us, innit?
Yeah.
But for example, in this day and age, you don't just get buildings given to you now and again. But my question as a whole now would be, because you was talking about economics and building up for ourselves and making things happen for the youth, our question would be now, is there a lobby, is there like 100 black businessmen in London that talk to each other on a WhatsApp group, and every one of them put in $1 million, and that would be 100 million, and then you do your own projects and your own funding?
I think two things. I think you're talking about Offley Works as the building, that was run by Asher Senator from Code 7, and Starlight Academy was in there. Lloyd Cox was in there. Movie pursued. We had a supplementary school in there. It's 5,000 square feet, and that's what I'm saying about political power. When you get it, you can make decisions like that. I couldn't make that decision, standing out on the outside throwing rocks to the inside. I couldn't get that building. But once we got into power, I was able to use that influence to say, yeah, Brixton and Lambeth need a building, and that's what they got. And if Ken got elected for a third term, right, that'd still be in our community's possession now. But that's another story. In relation to wealthy, look, what you don't realise is there are some really big black wealthy philanthropists. Half of them have just put their money into that black equity organization that was launched in May of this year. I think they got commitments of £18 million, and I think half of that is from black philanthropists, people who are at the top of their financial game. And I think there are several institutions that have been born post George Floyd that are of a next scale and a next generation. Now, I don't know, it's not like I'm on, I don't have anything to do with black equity organization in terms of being a trustee. But it seems to me, with such large commitment from the private sector and black philanthropists, what I'm beginning to be aware of is there's an ecosystem of them. They all talk to each other, and they're looking to do something, and they landed on black equity organization. But now at least I think there's an opportunity for our community to have conversations with them about, further investments beyond that of a black equity organization, or at least have them as part of a network that allows us to introduce them sort of people. But I often say, look, we're a young community here. It's not like in America where people have been around for 300-400 years in the country and built up church institutions and they've got a massive black middle class. It's not perfect by any means, but they've got institutions, historical black colleges, the black media, we're a much younger community here in the United Kingdom, and so things take a little bit more time. But I think this is coming to fruition now. And I think that what you were speaking about in terms of financial investment, could be something that emerges in the next couple of years.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Sister Jarita, I know you got 1 or 2 questions from the chat room.
Yeah, thank you both so much for your presentations. They were really insightful, and obviously clearly something that I think that we should actually be doing, actually coming together as a community, hence why I'm here, and actually pushing forward as one. There were a few people that mentioned a few things that I think might be worth answering, and a few questions. Number one, I'll start off with a big up from Rosita, who said she wanted you to go for London Mayor, Jasper, at one point, and she would have voted for you.
Charles's job.
Azania agreed that mainstream politics has failed the black community. But then there was another comment from Ches, who said, the TTIP, would voting take votes away from Labour? Would voting for you take votes away from the Labour Party, meaning that the Tories would stay in? Would it not be better to join the Labour Party and then change it from within?
Okay, can I need to answer that.
Of course.
Okay, now herein lies the problem, and I do understand the point that's being made, and there is a point of critical mass where ultimately the vote then, if we can get that number of, we'll get that amount of numbers in, the vote then comes to us. I'm not saying we're going to change things overnight, but what I am saying is that as much as we might try, within those organizations, there will always be a ceiling for us. There will always be as far as we can get. And as soon as we decide, or as soon as we're getting a little bit too much power or a little bit too much influence, there'll always be a disgrace. There'll always be some political destruction of us as people. The only way that we're going to progress is independent leadership. We've got to stop, for want of a better phrase, we've got to stop dancing for master. And as long as we're sitting in those organizations under their umbrella, then we're always going to be tap dancing. And my thought process is that the only way that we're going to change the dynamic of any of this is if we stop tap dancing. And that means we can't be controlled financially. We can't be controlled through our jobs. We have to have independent speech in order to make the change. So is it going to happen overnight? No. But what I do know definitely is within these organizations, I mean, someone mentioned earlier about dying up and crying in the toilet. Like, this is what happens to us, and they break us and they destroy us. And if we're making too much of a political wave, then they do what they can to bring us down. So for me, the answer to the question is no, we can't do it under their umbrella, because that's never going to be our umbrella, and their party lines are never going to be our party lines. So I see it as a most definite no. And even if we were to consider it, we would have to be very clear on the fact that these are our rules and we're playing by our rules. And as long as you're prepared to play by our rules, then we're good. But if you're not, or even if you feel for 1 second you've got influence over us, then that's a problem, because we want to have a position where we can speak freely about things that affect us. And as a community and as a people, I think that Black people are the least represented. And I think that the only way we're actually going to get this job done is, as I said earlier, is to stop relying on white Jesus to come save us. We need to step up and save ourselves. So no is the answer to the question. I don't think we can get it under the Labour watch. And I think we've got to stop being scared. Like, fear is the thing that holds us back. And do you know what? We might lose a couple of battles along the way. But the reality is, if we're not in the fight, we're never going to win. So I hope that answers.
That did. I'm going to bring you in a minute, Jarita. I know you've got more questions. I've got a few more people that I want to ask about. Sister Eve, I think it's Eve, time, space. Can you unmute yourself? If you'd like to ask a question. Sister, I think it's Eve, YV, time, space. What would you like to say?
Greetings, I'll be quick. Thank you so much. This has been really inspiring. I work in schools. I do cross lots of students who are struggling psychologically. It takes a long time to come out of what we're living through. And if you can think back to when you were at school, how you just didn't know what was going on. I have so much to say. Just coming across students who are really aggressive towards each other, color-wise, and I can clearly see it's something to do with their self-identity. And I just wondered, how do you think schools should be reformed in order to help students of our background, so that it's less of a traumatic, less of a brainwashing experience?
Wow, good question, sister. Brother Charles, Brother Lee Jasper, what's your opinion about that?
Look, I can only give you my experience. I think the work that Andrew Mohammed does is certainly the antidote to that. And any child that is attending the academies is going to be, extremely well prepared for life and all the challenges that comes with it. So I couldn't commend that highly enough. But I also think that we have to have a very much more therapeutic lens when we're dealing with our community. Because as you say, people are coming from difficult backgrounds, got challenging issues. We do have a plague of violence in our communities at the moment, and that brings a trauma all of its own. And we've got to be, as advocates for our own community, aware of the kind of trauma that some of our communities come from. And I think schools don't recognize and don't have enough of a trauma-informed approach. And I think what we do know about trauma is children who are in touch with their culture are more resistant to trauma. Children who are in touch with their culture are more confident in life. Children who are in touch with their culture do better at school. And so you understand that a strong cultural background, gives you resilience in the face of life. And so, one of the things that I say is, people ask me about how I manage resilience in the Black leadership space. And my answer is always very simple. I stand on 10,000 years of African history and culture. Of whom should I be afraid? Whom should I be intimidated by? Whose culture can outshine the contributors to global humanity and civilization? And I think that the greatest gift in life, therefore, is for parents to teach their children the culture. I'm all for Black history in schools, don't get me wrong. I'm all for that, as for what Andrew's doing. But I don't rely on anybody else to teach my children my culture but me, because I don't trust somebody from Norfolk teaching Black history in a secondary school and getting the right context and interpretation. And it's about nuance. So, for me, parents have to take the responsibility of saying, who is Harriet Tubman? Who is Marcus Garvey? Who was Malcolm X? Who was Bobby Seale? Who is Kwame Nkrumah? Who is Nanny of the Maroons? They have to know these things like the back of their hand, and that gives them strength, confidence, and resilience in life.
Can I jump in on that one?
Of course.
Can I? Yep. Okay. Now, I'd say that, okay, I don't even know where to start with this one, but this one's one that I'm quite passionate about. Because for me, what I saw with this whole system, what I've learned over the years and my observations are that the system is designed to fail us. So the system is set up in a way to fail us. These centres, these day centres that they're putting our young children in is being done deliberately. They're getting in there, they're getting a lesser of an education. They decide they're disruptive. And the reason why I can speak passionately about this is because it happened to me. I was very much that child in school that didn't follow the rules, that was, as far as the system was concerned, a bad breed. And I was basically an anomaly. As far as they were concerned, I couldn't follow. But my thing was this, as an entrepreneur, we're always thinking outside the box. So we're going to challenge the rules. We're going to challenge the way we're taught. This system teaches us and sets us up to almost be factory workers. So the problem that we have is as soon as we think outside the box, it becomes a problem for them. They then want to curb that. When I was in school, my headmaster said to me categorically that as far as he's concerned, in every group of people, there are leaders and there are followers. And my job is to eliminate the leaders so everyone else falls into place like sheep. That's an exact quote. That's what a white South African headmaster said to me when I was in school. These systems are set up like this to put our children into this, and they have what they call a school to prison pipeline. It's real. And my thing is this, if we don't change the system, and I do understand the points that's being made about trauma and everything else, but to me, the system is designed to fail us. And we watch it every day. We see it with our children. As soon as they're outspoken, they're a problem. It's not that they're a problem. They've just got an opinion. Let them have their opinion and feed that. Teach them how to become the person that they need to be. But don't allow the system and don't allow anyone to tell you that your child is anything different than brilliant. Because that's where the problem is. Those are the issues right there. The system is set up in a way to mess us up. And if we don't change it, if we don't sit down and say, do you know what? We're not having this for our children. We need a whole new system. We need to find out what motivates that child. Not to if you call a child bad enough, he will become bad. Not because he's bad, but you've taught him he's bad. And these are the things that I need to see, or I want to see a change to. And that's what makes me passionate about doing these things to make change, because the system, all of it, if we take a step back and look at it for 30 seconds, it becomes apparent that it has been designed like that. You don't get those things in the white areas. But yet in our area, you've got 50 million daycare centers for the children. Why? In other areas, they call it ADHD and all other kinds of stuff, and they blame all that. But in our areas, it's a problem. And then all of a sudden they go from that system into prison, and then they're in the prison making light switches for £4, £5 a month. That's what's really going on. So I think we need to be honest about the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is the way the system has been set up to fail us. Sorry.
Wow, brother, you are welcome. I see Jarita. Jarita is a senior leader at a school, a deputy head teacher. Sister, as someone who's a professional in this industry, what did you think about what Charles and what brother Lee Jasper just stated?
I totally agree, which is why I recently, within the past year, moved to a school that is very much like the one you just described that you went to after you were told. So now I work in an SEN PRU, and the children that are sent to me have, the education system has failed them. It's down to me to be able to tell them actually they are still bright sparks and they can make it and change that mindset. So, there are people out there who are trying to change, but there's not many of us out there, unfortunately. So yeah, I do agree. And, we have to change one at a time, as you said, but every nickel makes a muckle. Every time we change one, that person hopefully changed one, and it's a domino effect. But yeah, what you said is it's giving me energy to get up tomorrow morning. Let's put it that way, because
Wow.
it's clear that people can still make it, and you are, a good example of people being told they can't and actually making it. And it's, more of us need to be in that position to encourage the younger ones going forward. So thank you, appreciate
What's
it.
the next question, Jarita?
Next question is, there was a question for both of you, actually. So Jasper, you mentioned that we might need to, as a community, get together and support a party that had like 3 main points, I guess, that we thought that we could back. What would you suggest those might be? And there was also another question for you, which was, what do you think about repatriation, Charles? So I don't know.
Is Lee going to answer first, or do you want me to? I don't mind.
Lee, go for it. I haven't heard you for a little while.
Okay. I assume the last question was on reparation, and the first one was the 3 things. Well, I think the first thing that I would campaign for is a civil rights bill, because I think that there aren't enough Lee Jaspers and Charles Gordons and Andrew Mohammeds in the world to work on every single case in health, in criminal justice, Chris Carver, the Windrush, mental health, Black women's maternal health, and infant mortality. There's so much complexity out there that if you try and fight each of these struggles individually, then there's never going to be enough people to represent and make a difference. So you have to go for systemic change. And at least if you had a civil rights bill that guaranteed that institutionalized racism was incorporated into British law, then you could guarantee the rights of everybody in relation to protection from discrimination. So I think when you're talking about systemic change, you have to think about it in terms of racism and human rights, and getting absolute civil guarantees around an agenda that makes that concrete in law. I think the other thing would be to cancel all historic international debt for African Caribbean countries who are struggling in the aftermath of the pandemic, who are struggling with the effects of climate change. For all the talk of our problems here, there are hundreds of millions of African, Caribbean, Asian peoples around the world who are, climate change refugees. And seeking, facing enormous hardships, and those things are only, are going to get worse. So I think by cancelling international debt, which these countries are paying huge interest rate payments back to, imagine South Africa still paying interest payments on money that the apartheid regime borrowed to oppress Africans. I mean, that's just insidious. Imagine Haiti still paying interest on debt to France. It's insidious. Imagine former colonials paying interest date back to the United Kingdom after all the exploitation it did. It's insidious. And by cancelling that debt, that would be, I think, a huge thing. And I think the final thing for me would be, what would that be? I think I'd change the electoral system, because I think as long as we've got first past the post, big money and big organisations are always going to win. It's going to be really difficult. Charles is doing an admirable job, and I applaud him, and he should be supported, and I do support him. But he knows it's an uphill struggle by the first past the post system. And I think if you change the system to proportional representation, then I think you could have an explosion of TTP and independent parties right across the country.
Beautiful. Brother Charles?
Okay, so on reparations, repatriation was the question. Now, I mean, this is something to me that's all right. Now, this is a bit of a bugbear, and I'll tell you why. For me, I don't believe in running, and the problem is that repatriation effectively means let's run away from here and go to our motherlands and build our communities there. But the other problem that we have is that some of us, especially my generation, were born here. This is what we know, and don't get me wrong, I think that repatriation is a great idea. I think that, you know, if we're in a country where we're not wanted, why would we want to stay here to a large degree? But then on the other side to that, I think we've got to be in a position where we're at least building, let me put it like this, and I think an example is this. While we're here in the UK, I think that I'm about getting out and building foundations in our hometown, but everywhere we go, there will be problems. There will be different issues under a different umbrella. If we were in Africa, so wherever we go, there's always going to be different issues. My solution in life isn't running away from the problem. I believe that what we need to be doing is looking at, if we're going to be here, let's at least make it tolerable for us while we're here. We don't move into a house and not put down our carpet and not put up our wallpaper. And my point is, we've been here for going on 70 years now. Let's at least make it comfortable for us and the next generation of us, because at the end of the day, running away from the problem isn't going to solve the problem. But what I think we need to do is, while we're here, let's make the provisions that we need to make, be it where we've got dense communities, that we decide and we're going to make those communities better and more impactful on us. We change the schooling system, we make the changes that need to be made, and we stop being in the mindset of running from the problem and start focusing on being the solution. Because it's easy to run. We can all run away from issues, but the reality is we don't know and you don't run away from a place, you run away to a place. And we've got to have a good understanding of what it is we're going to and what we're aiming to achieve there. But while we're here, let's make it tolerable. Let's pass laws that make it profitable, make it comfortable and profitable for our children to grow up and become the leaders that they need to be. While we're here, let's not spend our time focusing on getting out. While we're here, at the very least, let's make it comfortable for us while we're here. And let's put down our carpet, let's put up our wallpaper and make the house how we want the house to be. And let's stop thinking about, oh, let's run away. I don't believe in running away. I believe in staying in, fighting head on and solving the problem and making it the best we can make it. We don't need to take the whole of England. My thing is, let's go for the areas where we've got our communities, we build our own schools, we build our communities, and we build what we're happy with. We don't spend our life crying about what we don't have, and we start focusing on what we do have and make it better for the next generation, because our children are going to be here for time to come. And it's not fair to them to say, all right, we know we're going to put you in an environment that you don't know and don't understand. So and don't get me wrong, I think we need to repatriate. I think we need vitamin D. We need all the things so we need to be, this country isn't built for us. But while we're here, let's make it palatable, I think is the point I'm getting at on that one.
Beautiful. And can I give a shout out to Andrew Morris, brother, who's your fellow co-founder of the TTIP. I want to give a massive shout out to that brother. Brother Shola, can you unmute yourself? Shola, if you're still there, brother Shola, can you unmute yourself? Give you a few seconds. Time is of the essence. Okay, you got your hand up. Azanya has got your hand up. I tell you what.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're unmuted. Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello?
We can hear you, Shola.
Okay. My question was, sorry about this, I'm just out. What materials would you recommend that as a community that we read to educate ourselves on London politics and national politics?
Good question. Good question. I like that question, Shola. What materials would you recommend? See, these are good, sincere questions. I love sincere questions. What materials would you recommend to us, the two of you, in order to educate us into Black politics?
Okay, I'm going to back that one straight over to Lee, and I'll tell you why. Because from where I tell you what we do as TTIP, we run courses where we teach people what it means to be a local government councillor and so on and so forth, and we prepare people to run in elections. But to be honest, I'm not a politician. I'm an advocate of change. And for me, it's more about, I've taken the time to understand the system. It's not rocket science by any stretch. And what I realized is that this is very basic knowledge that they've just kept away from us. But I mean, the reality is it doesn't take much to put yourself up as a local candidate. It doesn't take much to get votes. In some wards and in some areas, especially at local government, I know Lee was talking a lot more about parliamentary elections, but local government, which is all we need to make change, literally you're talking 300 or 400 votes in some wards, in some areas can get your councillor elected in. And when you really think about it, we probably all know 300 or 400 people. We've been led to believe that this game isn't for us, but the reality is it is, and we can take it. We've just got to understand and get into the game. And I do understand that all the reasons why not, and there's going to be a million of them, but the bottom line is even the Labour Party started somewhere. We've all got to start somewhere and start making those changes. And as I said, I'm batting it straight over to Lee because this is your arena more so than it is mine.
Yeah, you could have a political education class, haven't you? I mean, that's how you're going to start there and really understand the political processes in London in terms of, you know, the tripartite governance arrangements from the mayor to the Home Secretary to the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, and then the 32 London councils. It's a real complex arena. I mean, once you get hold of it and you introduce yourself to these materials, it'll come to you fairly quickly. But I run a political masterclass, and there's another one in the new year. People come along, and that is a whole day of activity of focusing in on some of the issues I've spoken about today, but we'll give you a sort of good entree into political analysis and understanding the architecture of power in a place like London. So my details are in the chat, so you can link me from there.
Wow, wow, wow. Brothers and sisters, can you believe the power that we have within our own community? Just listening to these brothers, these kings, it's just empowerment. And I know we've got some more hands up. And I know Jarita's got more questions, but brothers and sisters, time has been of the essence tonight. Time is definitely of the essence tonight. Brother Lee, Brother Charles, you've been absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. We thank you. I could see that, you know, this is something that we're going to have to be discussing. Absolutely taken apart. This whole situation. Just one quick thing before we go through. Sister Kanisha, are you there? Because I've been, I see Sister Kanisha. All right then, Kanshina. Okay, all right, no worries. All right, because I can see quite a few hands are up and what have you. Okay, please forgive me, brothers, because I know that some of you are gonna look at me dark now because you've been waiting for a long time to speak to Brother Lee and to Brother Charles. Forgive me because time is of the essence, brothers and sisters. And before we finish, Brother Charles, what's your last words that you'd like to leave the platform with tonight? And I'll ask you the same question, Brother Lee. What's the last words that you would like to say tonight, my king?
You know what? I want to summarize it. And it comes down to a very simple phrase for me: be the change that we want to see. Because ultimately, this isn't something that's been done by me for me. This has been something that's been done by us for us. And ultimately, it's a vehicle. We've taken the time to get the registration, to get ourselves fully registered with the Electoral Commission so that we are in a position to have a voice for ourselves. And all I want you guys to do is get on board, take your seat at the table. As I've said 1,000 times throughout this year, I'm not a politician. That's not what I want to be, but I do want to see the change. And this is a vehicle which allows us to make the change. We can protest till we're blue in the face. We can stand outside the Houses of Parliament throwing as many stones as we want. It's not going to change anything. The only thing we're going to do to make changes that are going to represent us is to get in there and get around the table. Someone said to me once, and it's something that sticks in my head, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And it's time for us to stop being food. Like, it's time for us to wake up, understand what's going on, and start making those changes, because other than that, it's not going to change itself. And we're in a position to do that. The vehicle has been created for us to do that. Let's utilize it and make the changes that need to be made, and stop crying about what's wrong, and sign up, join up to TTIP, get involved. One of the other things that we're doing is we're doing classes where not just, because it's not just about the political power, it is about the economic power. So we'll be doing, as part of membership, we'll be doing courses which teach people about investment into property, investment into cryptocurrency, how to understand the benefit system, all the different things, because for me, one of the key factors is education. And as part of the organization, we've got solicitors who work with us who will give our members free legal advice. We want to make this more of an organization where people can come on board and feel supported and feel helped, and ultimately give them the knowledge and the influence, and start to share the knowledge that we need in order to move this forward. Because the truth is, we all do what we're doing in silo, but that doesn't help us move forward. We need to start working together. I'm an expert in property. Lee Jasper's an expert in politics. You're an expert in history. I mean, the history I've seen come from your mouth, or just on a whim, I'm just like, wow, how do you even retain that much knowledge in your head? And the point is, if we start to bring these things together, we have a powerful unit. But as long as we're all working in silo, we're easily picked off. And the point is, we now need to understand that, change the mechanics, start to deprogram everything, or unlearn what we have learned. In the words of the great Yoda, we need to deprogram ourselves, understand who we are, and rebuild. And it starts individually. It starts with every single one of us. As Dr. Garvey said to me the other day, and it's the truth, one person at a time. We've got to change ourselves, and then we can change the person next to us and the person next to us, to help us understand and go back to who we are and be the great people that we are. But we've got to start understanding and believing in ourselves in order for that to happen. And that's it. Sorry.
Powerful. Teach, brother. And as you was teaching, Brother Charles, several people said that they voted for you when I think in Croydon or in South London.
Thank you.
Sister Mitch, maybe also quite a few people said that there were some of your supporters.
Thank you.
Brother Lee Jasper, please, what's your last words to us, King?
I think I would say that, look, these are going to be incredible, difficult times for us in the country.
Yes.
So we've got to hang tough together.
Yes.
And the more we are together, the happier we will be. Trust me, on every single level, economically, politically, culturally, and even in terms of our health. So we have to mature to the extent that, you know, we need leadership that is ethical and transparent and represents the view of the people. At the end of the day, you know, I'm not interested in just seeing any black face in a high place. We've seen that what happens when you have that. What I'm interested in is, what is your agenda? What is your political priority? Do we agree on those things? And I think when we have a mature discussion around agreeing a political agenda, however narrow that might be, it's better to agree on a small number of things than to not agree on anything at all. So I think unification around a political agenda, mass mobilization for people to turn out, and a focus around building our own economy so that we can fund our independent leadership and fund our own parties. And the other thing is, I think about this internal reparation we were talking about earlier, and trauma. I don't think we can discount the fact that traumatized people who are not in touch with their culture can't be led. You can't lead, you can't, they don't function. You know, their priorities, they could be counterproductive to you in relation to how their dysfunction plays out. And I think that we cannot ignore the fact that our community needs a traumatic, informed approach. Not all of us by any extent, but we do have a lot of people who suffered at the hands of the system. And we need to have a comparing compassionate approach to understanding and helping them live the trauma so that they can become politically conscious to do the right thing. It's like a child in the classroom. You can't teach a child who's traumatized. You have to deal with the trauma in order for the education to get through. And we need to take that into account. And I think that, look, you know, just more globally, I'm all for being strong in this country. But the Chinaman and the Saudi Arabian is strong whichever country he's in, because Saudi Arabia and China are strong. And Gabi said to us that if Africa's strong, then Africans throughout the world are strong. And I think that it's not a binary choice. It's actually both things at the same time. Strong commitment to supporting a powerful Africa means that the African diaspora across the world also becomes empowered.
Woo! Wow! 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 Ow! Oh, the two of you, man. Oh, that's what I love, brothers and sisters. You know what? These are men that we're listening to. These are what you call men. Men. This is powerful, brothers and sisters. I don't know what to say. It's just love and just thanking the Most High for Lee Jasper, for Brother Charles, giving us different ways of looking at the same issue. Power and light and energy, brothers and sisters.
What a grand hidden truth, family. We're here in the Gambia. Sister Yvonne and Sister Angie from Agatorge. We've got something to say. One Papa G.
You don't know every single time. You don't know every single time. Brothers and sisters, never, ever, ever, ever give up, brothers and sisters. We're marching forward. You know, we're just showing you glimpses of our power. Yeah, Brother Charles said we got phenomenal talent within our community. Our only problem is that we're not organizing that talent to work as one. Yeah, maybe we could look at that, brothers and sisters. So again, Brother Charles Gordon, TTIP co-founder. Allah, God made him beautiful to look at. He's giving this brother wisdom. He's giving this brother passion. He's giving this brother commitment. Come on, man. You know, sign up. Let's get on board to the TTIP. Brothers and sisters, Brother Lee Jasper, another brother with charisma, with wisdom, with power. Yes, he's good looking too, man. Come on, man. We've got the two kings giving up. We can't say, God, I can't look at these two brothers. No, God has made them pretty to look at, man. So we can literally take the sugar that comes out of their mouth, okay, brothers and sisters. Let's not forget to support our brother Hadar. I want to give a shout out to Brother Kevin A. Mohammed. He texted me, said he's bought several books himself. Brothers and sisters, please, let's get online. Let's support this young brother with his books, man. We're going to make sure that tonight the brother can go to bed tonight with a smile on his face, because so many brothers and sisters heard him from all over the world. And they didn't just listen to him, brothers and sisters. They literally bought his product and shared his product. Brother Hadar, big up to you, and big up to mommy and daddy, brother. You're powerful, you're large. So brothers and sisters, we don't like to hold you back too long. We want to thank you so much. This is the intro. We don't waste time on this platform, man. We ain't one of those shows that go on for 4 or 5 hours and we go around the universe. No time to do that, man. Let's talk our business. Let's hit the hard points, brothers and sisters. And don't forget, we're here every single Tuesday, be it the will of Allah. Every single Tuesday, we are here, brothers and sisters, and we've got a treat for you next week. It goes out tomorrow morning, brothers and sisters. We've got a powerful show lined up for you next week. Jeez.